I was one time in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. There was a man that was begging people for money, and he asked me for 25 cents. And I gave him this one little tip that would help him make 5 times more money than asking people for 25 cents. What was it? السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. So now that we've come towards the end of our series, we still have a lot of techniques left in the goodie bag. So let's look at some of those, inshallah. One very useful technique is to learn to quantify. Okay, so look at this. You're giving da'wah to someone and you ask him to become Muslim. He says, no, I won't become Muslim. Why not? Because I'm very happy being a Christian, or I'm satisfied being Christian. I'm okay as a Christian. Now, I cannot challenge satisfied. I cannot challenge happy. How are you going to do that? What are you going to say? Don't be happy? Or come with me, I'll make you happier? You cannot challenge happy. So you need to quantify this, and you need to find out what makes him happy. Why are you satisfied being a Christian? Why are you happy being a Christian? Then he'll tell you, for example, because Jesus Christ died for my sins. Now, when he says that, now you have something to work with. Now I can tackle, did Jesus really die for your sins? And if I remove that, then the whole happy argument is gone. That's quantifying. This is also used by prosecutors in court and things like that, and lawyers. So they ask someone will say, for example, I worked hard for the company, I was a very hard worker, and they fired me. Now, you have to quantify what very hard worker means. So we don't know what that means. So you would do it like this. You would say, so you worked very hard for the company. Did you work Monday through Friday? Yes. And you took every other Friday off, correct? Yes. Did you work any overtime hours? No. Did you work weekends? No. So basically, you worked Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, and you took every other Friday off, correct? Correct. Suddenly, it doesn't look like very hard worker. And that's what you do when you quantify. You go into a statement like satisfied, happy, hard worker, hardworking, and you break it up, and then you have something to work with. So that's a technique. Use it with people. I'm happy being a Christian. What makes you happy being Christian? And that's what you ask. We would actually ask someone, what makes you happy being a Christian? If they say that, if they say I'm happy, then you say, what makes you happy? Then they say it, then immediately we tackle that. Technique number 2, getting people to think. This was a study that was conducted that shows that if you ask people for 25 cents, they'll quickly say no. And you have a small chance of getting 25 cents because everybody standing in a street corner in the history of street corners would say, sir, excuse me, sir, do you have a quarter? Do you have a quarter, sir? Or in Canada, can I get a loonie? Now, you quickly say no because you've heard people asking for quarters, loonies all the time, and without thinking, you quickly say no to them. Now, if you're able to get people to think for a minute, you have a much higher chance of getting them to respond to you. So the study showed that when you ask people for 37 cents or any strange number, 29 cents, 31 cents, 43 cents, people stop and think, and there's a much higher percentage that they'll give you the amount. Why? Because now, one, you got them to think. It's not the usual, can I get a quarter, sir? Can I get a quarter? And they don't have to think about that. Just no. But now, because they're giving you a different number, thoughts are going through my head. Maybe he needs a bus ticket and he's exactly short 37 cents. Or he needs to buy a sandwich and he's short 37 cents. Why the peculiar number? The strange number makes you think again. And they say you can use the same technique in a variety of different places. Remember, tools and different usages. For example, if your meeting starts at 9, okay, and people follow MST, Muslim Standard Time, the meeting is gonna, let's be honest, the meeting's gonna start at what time? 9:30 probably. If not, 9:15, that's a good meeting, 9:15. So if you say 9 o'clock, everybody knows that, so we'll start at 9:30. And that's why they don't bother to come at 9. What if you say the meeting is gonna start at 8:57? The peculiar timing will make people come on time, and most likely now your meeting would start at 9. Now, this could just be theoretical. All you have to do is try it at some point. Something else from the goodie bag. This is called, I call this technique high point, low point. All right? And basically, there are different scenarios where you can use this. One time, my biology professor, we were talking about religion, and she tells me that I separate between my scientific and rational self and my religious self. So she goes to church on Sunday, and I asked her about the Trinity, and she said I separate between being scientific, and when I go to church, my rational self and my scientific self stays at home, basically. Now that's a low point. She just admitted to a very low point. When someone does that, they have like essentially lowered their head like this, almost in shame. This is where you come in with a high point. So the minute she said that, I immediately told her, and I'm inviting you to a religion where you never have to separate between your logical and rational self and your spiritual self. Low point, come in with the high point. Another example. One time I was walking down the street and these two missionaries, and they were Mormon missionaries. They came. Now, this is what's happening. In my mind, I want to give them da'wah. In their mind, they want to give me da'wah. So here we are. We're on an even, I was going to say evil, but even playing field, where they were on the evil one, according to my opinion, right? So we're on an even playing field. They want to give me da'wah, I want to give them da'wah. We're going to butt heads. Who's going to start talking and who's going to listen? Low point, high point technique. Why? I'm going to ask them certain questions about their belief, which is a low point for them. And they're going to lower their head in shame like that. And it's hard to recover from this, and I'm going to be the one speaking. And this is a true story. So what happened was, they came up to me. Good morning, sir. Have you heard of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? I said, yes. Aren't you the ones who believe that God used to be a human being who lived and walked on earth? Then he sinned, and then he made tawbah, repented, and when he died, went to paradise, became a god, and got a little earth, and he's the god of that earth. And that when you guys die, you will become gods, and each one of you will have an earth. And when I said that, the man lowered his head like this. He said, yes, that's us. Now, do you think he can recover from this? He's gone. What do you think? Watch the recovery. Yes, that's us. Now, would you like to join us? Unlikely, isn't it? So he was like this, and now that, remember the playing field? Now he's here. Now who's doing the talking? Now, I'll tell you something else that's amazing about this technique. There's a field of study called rhetorical criticism. It's a very interesting field. If anyone has time, or even if you don't have time, read on this field. It's really, really interesting. And there's one of the scholars in this field, he did a study on conversion. He called it conversion theory. When you convert from anything to anything else, يعني, from Christian to Muslim, from Republican to Democrat, from this to that, whenever you convert, what's the process and what happens in your mind before you convert? And he found no matter what it is, if you switch from one horrible soccer team to another, let's say you switch from Manchester, okay, whatever. Anyways, the point is, whenever you switch from one thing to another, what happens in your mind? And he found almost across the board, almost all the time, step number one is when you start to doubt what you believe in first. Meaning, if someone is a Christian who has no doubt in his beliefs, he's not going to overnight become Muslim. So one of the steps before he becomes Muslim is he starts to at some point doubt his own belief system. Doubting his belief system allows him to look at other belief systems and accept other belief systems and analyze them, and then he'll make a change. But if he's 100% strong in his faith, he's not going to switch in an hour. So that's why it's such a helpful technique whenever high point, low point, or you can, and we're going to look at this in more in depth. You ask certain questions to shake them, to get them to shake their foundation, and then from there you start calling them to Islam. Over the years of teaching da'wah classes, students always come to you at the end and tell you, this was the best thing, this is what I benefited the most from. One time a student came up and he said, the thing that I benefited from the most, and in that course we dealt with atheists, and we dealt with polytheism and Buddhism, and we dealt with all kinds of things, and even da'wah to Muslims. And he said, the most beneficial thing I got out of this course was the concept of being in da'wah mode. Meaning, you're always on, as they say. You're always in da'wah mode. You're always looking for da'wah opportunity. You're always looking for da'wah techniques. Even if you're in a class that's talking about some kind of theory, and I guarantee you can be in any class, in any subject in the world. If you're in da'wah mode, you're going to find da'wah benefit. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but it could be any subject. You could be studying about worms and you're going to find da'wah points there. I don't care what it is. That's how it works, inshallah. Now, so part of being in da'wah mode all the time is to read into things, read into signs. Okay? Here's an example. One time, we're handing out pamphlets in the street. I gave a man a pamphlet and I kept walking. I turned around to look at him. He had stopped. Now he stopped and he's reading it. Do you think I should go back and talk to him? Most of you said yes. Why? Because you realize he stopped. That shows interest. So you're reading into things. The da'i is always aware of these things. There's something called rogue traits and rogue actions. Rogue traits, for example, would be something that's out of place. Let's say you go visit a CEO of a company. He's an older man, and there's something out of place in his office. It could be maybe like a motorcycle helmet with skull and fire and stuff, and spiked leather jacket, and like, this is strange. It doesn't sit right in his office, so that's a rogue trait. You notice something like that, and you're always aware of things like that, and that could also be a conversation starter, in another time. At the same time, a rogue action is something out of place. For example, there's a child that's very talkative at dinner every night, talking all the time, and then this one dinner, she's very quiet. This is a rogue action. It's different. It's out of the ordinary. Now, don't just ignore something like that. You have to investigate. So you're paying attention. Why are you quiet? What happened? Has anyone said anything to you? Did anyone do anything to you? And you start to question. The da'iyah is always on their toes. They're always aware. They're always looking for opportunity. They're always paying attention to people's behavior. I'll conclude by saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave all of us the ability to understand human emotions, to understand behavior, to understand what's happening. Most of us don't, because we don't bring it up one notch. And if you bring it up one notch, you will find that you're understanding a lot of things, not just from how people speak and their expressions, but also from the words they use and why they put this word in front of the other one. All we have to do is just put a little bit more attention. So these are things from the goodie bag. Keep that bag with you all the time and pull the appropriate one for the appropriate situation. Jazakumullah khair for your listening. Sallallahu wa barak ala Muhammad. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.